Thank you, Roya. So good. Hello?
You can project.
I can do that, yeah. I basically just want to say thanks everyone for coming out for our world premiere. We have, I'm here obviously, and we have members of my team here, Rinkia Ato, the producer, Shagun, our composer, and Kemi, our editor, and Fazia, our associate producer. We really hope you enjoy the film, and I believe it's Q&A afterwards, so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And thanks to the LA Film Festival for having us here.
So not only is this film going to be judged by jurors in the World Cinema Competition, but this film is also eligible for an audience award for the Best Fiction Film. So you should have all received these ballots when you walked in, and they are rated number one to 4. 4 is the best, and then you just rip the corner that you think the film is, and you hand it in at the end when you're leaving. Anyone who did not receive a ballot, now is the time.
In the US about changes going on in their communities. And I wanted to make a film that could explore the topic of gentrification, but in a nuanced way, looking at everyone's complicity in a sense, particularly for myself as someone who, although I am from that area, who frequents places that could be considered big parts of the problem. So I felt I wasn't sure how to approach the subject in a very linear fashion with a straightforward 90-page script. I felt it needed real people, and I felt it needed a kind of a mixed, mashed approach to try and get the most nuanced kind of opinions and not just be angry about it, but just try to ask questions about it and point out about the international nature of gentrification.
Is that why you chose to have an artist be the protagonist and lead us through this exploration?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because artists are very complicit in the process, and sometimes unwittingly and inadvertently, but sometimes it's something we can't ignore. I really wanted to explore that as myself, as I said, being an artist. It's a film really about an artist trying to get to grips with her complicity by a filmmaker trying to get to grips with his complicity. So my problem is my protagonist's problem and vice versa. And I felt that was really important. The artist's route was really interesting to explore that.
Right. Can you talk a little bit about the casting and how you either collaborated or directed the people in the film, because I felt like the voices were so authentic. I've definitely had some of those conversations that felt like something that I've actually experienced. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So the first person who was cast in this film is Tanya, the lead. Me and her made a short called Touch 2 years ago. It was like a sort of weird Afrofuturistic thing in Lincolnshire, and I knew that my first feature would have her as the lead. And one thing to note is that all the interviews and all the people being interviewed in the film are real. So it's a multimedia film, it's a mixture of documentary and fiction. So in terms of directing them, there was no directing. That event, Reclaim Brixton, is a real event. It was just very much 3 days before the event took place. Tanya, me, my producer, and Tanya decided that this is what the film's about. So we went there, Tanya being obviously a fictional character, but everything that was happening at the event was real. So the people who we were interviewing didn't even realize it was like a fiction film.
Right.
It was just very fortuitous that everyone there had cameras because they were filming the event. So no one really minded being asked questions. So it's a real haphazard approach to filming because it's really weird. It's not just like we've obviously had straight fictional days where it was just actors like Yasa and Aki, but there was times when, because of the multimedia nature of the film, you were just kind of following, discovering, and finding things improvised on set, which was I found quite enjoyable because I always find things that you don't anticipate to be the most exciting things on set. So when you're going into an environment where you have no control, it was really interesting.
And you got a really beautiful result from that.
Yeah. It could have gone completely the other way, which was what made it exciting. But
I'd like to open it up. Does anyone have any questions right here?
Hi, you have very interesting but consistent beats throughout the movie with the slow motion, an interesting image, and beautiful scores. Can you talk about your use of those images and what's their function in the movie?
Yeah, sure. It's a really clever question. Sorry, did you ask? Can you repeat the question?
I
Is
through the
microphone.
microphone that you couldn't hear.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. My
Gives me
question.
more time to think about an answer. That's why I'm
My question was that there's multiple consistent but interesting beat in the movie where there's many slow motions, interesting image incorporated with beautiful scores. I was wondering what's your function in the movie for that and what's your intention?
The answer is yes. And first, in terms of the scores, I have to give a shout out to our composer, Shola Amoo. Can you please stand up? Because he is the result of all of our music. It's all original. And basically, the slow-mo is, again, it goes to the multimedia nature of the film. It's a combination of fiction, documentary, performance art. And I was very interested in trying to capture these kind of visual art elements and weave them into the narrative. So it's not just that we're trying to create a scene and make the energy of the scene, but we create a scene and we have a tone. And the images and the sound move to a tone and a rhythm. I'm a big fan of directors who can use music in film. It's very tricky to use music in film without trying to use it to kind of denote the emotion. I really like using music for just tone, and I felt like, I shot the film in a particular way with lots of slow-mo and slow sequences because I knew we were going to marry it with amazing music from Shola to kind of communicate a tone of whatever the scene was.
Right, I was very fresh for me because I was just in Brixton last Sunday.
Oh, amazing. South London.
I was at Electric Brixton. I was at the last performance of The Thirst. I was there.
Oh, the stuff, the band, yes.
And Yinka, I love him too.
Yinka.
On a radio station, Funkable Radio, we play Yinka all the time and stuff, So everybody in there was just popping off the screen, literally and stuff. From your perspective, do you want this piece to go back to the community, or do you want this to be on the BBC or Sky ITV so they can get a broader sense of how do you want this to relate back to the people there, or just the overall movement of Reclaim Brixton, or just how do you want this to be perceived back in London, basically?
Yeah, essentially, I think they can work in tandem. We have plans to take this film all around London, beyond London, perhaps beyond the UK. But we really want to take it to community groups, particularly in South London, Brixton, Elephant Castle, and Peckham, places really dealing with gentrification. We want to take the film there and use it as a generator for debate. We want it to be a catalyst for conversation. That's the key element to the film, because Reclaim Brixton happened last year, and gentrification is obviously not going away. They've already started up a campaign for the next event, which is going to be called Reclaim Lambeth, which is the borough where Brixton resides. So it's about taking this film as far as we can go to all these places, Berlin, here, Brooklyn, Harlem, Brixton, and really starting a conversation with the piece. That's the main aim. And also, again, I'm interested in traditional ways of distribution, but I'm also interested in breaking the film up because it's multimedia, so you're meant to be able to pull segments out of the film, whether it's the interviews or the performance pieces, and present them in a different way, maybe in a gallery or in a visual art way. That's really what I'm also interested in as well.
Well, it's such a global story. I mean, this is Brixton, but I feel like it absolutely resonates here in Los Angeles. There's plenty of neighborhoods here that are undergoing gentrification. As far as starting a conversation, do you have, are you active on social media? Like, what's the way to start up a global conversation with the film?
Well, what we're doing, our website is www.TheMovieReport.com, and what we intend to do is, as the film has a segment where people send in their video contributions from around the world, and we would like to continue that on the website and build up almost like an online database, so people can see just the international nature of it, and essentially, as our protagonist was trying to come up with a plan of how everyone connecting might be a way for them to find solutions collectively. We would like to try and facilitate that in any way we can. So you can follow us. If you go to our website, it has all of our social media handles on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. But we really want www.moveandimage.film.com to be the place where that can harbor and just set people in different directions with the conversation.
Are there any other questions? Right here?
Did you always know that you wanted the protagonist to be a female, or what was the process by which you came to that decision?
It was Tanya. I always knew the first feature would be with her, and I knew I was going to tackle the subject of gentrification, and so it was just a combination of that. And it was really, having directed her before, with this film, I felt like we were, in a way, as well as touching themes of gentrification, race, the meaning of black art, it means anything as a concept. Gender was also another thing that was coming into it, particularly in the earlier scene with the director trying to get her to perform, because Tanya had a lot of actresses and friends of mine who spoke of experiences where they've been directed in a certain way that has been really bizarre for them to try and comprehend. And as a male director with a female lead, you're always having to not have a double consciousness, but you have to be hyper aware of what you're doing and how you're trying to subvert stereotypes and not play into them. So I felt like it was really kind of cheeky to put that scene in, kind of bold because it is. But I enjoy that how that plays out, because it can happen to any director at any time, and I just hope it didn't happen to me in my film.
Well, I thought that was what I like about that scene is it really sets her up as a questioning and defining character, which is what I really like about it. So I think we have time for one more question. Oh, right here.
So when Mickey's being interviewed, I think he's usually pretty open and his answers are really well-rounded. And then when she asks him about race, he gets really defensive and cuts her off immediately, and they never end up having that conversation about race. Can you talk about writing that scene and their communication with each other, and if you always knew that they weren't going to have that conversation, even though they had that conversation about gentrification?
Yeah, I think I almost forget how much of, because I remember when we had the script, it was only 60 pages, and anybody knows that's not really a full film. But there's a lot of improvisation in this film in particular. I think I don't think I ever continued. I think I was always going to let them have. I don't really, even if there's a script, actors are allowed to kind of dart around it and do kind of what they want to do. So once we blocked it and rehearsed it, the scene kind of came to a very its own kind of end in that moment, and they didn't organically explore that question. So I didn't push it. It felt like it must have felt right for Alex Austin, who plays Mickey, to want to evade that question for whatever reason, maybe because he also wants to later on go on a date with her, and he doesn't want to mess up. And race is a very tricky thing to talk about, as we all know. I hope, does that answer your question, Noe?
Yeah, I just thought it's interesting because, like, so much right now, everyone just is saying the phrase, like, oh, let's talk about race, and she actually just says that to him. She doesn't pose, like, a real question, and he gets so defensive and like, mad at her, kind of. So, yeah, you did. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we have one more. Okay, go ahead.
I'm gonna talk.
I can't see, so go ahead.
Okay, my voice in the darkness. I was just curious, what inspired you to introduce the element of depression into the film?
Yeah, I think it's a reoccurring theme. I live in a very kind of artistic community in London, and I know it's a thing that a lot of artists deal with in particular. And I don't think it's something. I mean, for a lot of people, it can be considered something that's really enables people to delve deep into their work and pushes them to do that. And for other people, it's a complete block. And I just wanted to start again that conversation of, artists exploring that, and not just actors, but of course people in the music industry, in all forms of art, fine art, visual art, because it's something that I've just noticed as a kind of trend almost, and I hadn't really. In a straightforward way, I hadn't really seen it explored, and I really wanted to just again put something there to start a conversation about it, because I think it's really important. I don't think there's much things more important than that, actually.
Thank you so much for such a beautiful and nuanced film. Thank you.
I'm really glad to be here.
Please don't forget to bring in your ballots and then just go out to the lobby. Will you be around in the lobby?
Yes.
Yeah. We can continue conversations out there. Thank you.